What's going on, traders? How we doing out there? Let's get right into the battle that is the market today. Of course, wouldn't you know it? And I know a lot of people have been focusing on the uncertainty in the Middle East, but it looks like the market just doesn't care. At least that's what it seems like. Let's take a look at the SPY action here. As the SPY has been making moves up, it's been up there to the 437s, and you can see this on the daily. I mean, essentially, since we've been going through this scare here since Monday of last week, you guys can see it. We've essentially gone up from the market. And that's just how crazy the market can be at some times, where you think that it's going to lead to the downside. The logical move says that uncertainty and political unrest go ahead and takes this down. Well, you guys see it there. Doesn't work out the way that at least the market's trading, at least. So let's get into it. Let's see what we're seeing underneath the hood. What's really happening here? Well, what's really happening here is technology is leading the party, right? And when the bigger names lead the party, when the Magnificent Seven or the Elite Eight are leading the markets, well, the truth is that they're going to go how tech goes, right? And you guys can see today what happens today. Well, look at Apple. Apple, nice up day. Microsoft, nice up day. Google, continuing the up action. NVIDIA was red all pre-market, goes green at the gates, up 2.4% here. Not looking bad. Meta continuing right back up. Google going back to the upside. TSM, AVGO. It just looks like overall it wasn't a bad day here. Seeing some of the major stocks kind of continue to lift, and we'll see what happens. I think that one of the things that we always need to keep in mind is that, you know, the Qs are so tech heavy, and when they run, they have a tendency of leading the market. And right now it seems like they're doing just that. Just recently, we went up to this trend line and rejected it. Now, this is the big level I think we need to kind of keep an eye out for. And I'm going to make this a little bit bolder so I can kind of see it on the chart stand out. And we'll see what happens here on this daily level, right? What will happen when we get back up towards that 372, 371 area? Will we get above it going towards the 386, 87s? If we can do that, we can just drive higher. And the Qs, who knows? Is it out of reach that they can make it to an all-time highs? No, it really isn't out of reach. It's just going to depend more on what happens in this earnings. Of course, the earnings out there are expected to come in a little bit light. I mean, but overall, pretty good earnings expected to come in here. Now, of course, a lot of people will be focusing on the future earnings, what comes down the line, right? Do we see the slowdown? Do they tell us that slowdown? And will we get some kind of warning, right, early, ahead of time? Now, that's one thing that I'm thinking about. The SPY's chart isn't as clean as the Q's chart, and that just tells me you need to be focusing on what's going on in the tech world, because that's going to determine what happens here. Of course, I've been pointing out the banking concerns, and I think those are concerns to kind of have. But look at the XLF today. Of course, as the market goes, a lot of the times the financials end up kind of dragging behind it. And you guys can see the market overall kind of hanging in there right now. And then I saw today the KRE get a little bit of a bounce, right? As we see that bounce, we'll see what happens later in the week, of course. You got different names that will be reporting, bigger names, of course, even Ozark later in the week. This will be one report that I will definitely be having my eyes open for. And of course, you guys can get all of this on the earnings week calendar. If you guys don't have our earnings calendar, definitely go over to, of course, our Twitter right now, and you guys can just download it from there. And take a look here. As you guys see it, the stocks that we'll be reporting after the bell today, not much, but tomorrow before the open, we get Johnson & Johnson, Bank of America, Lockheed Martin. Those are definitely stocks to kind of keep an eye out. Goldman Sachs. Let's take a look at Goldman Sachs and see how it's trading right now. Let's go to the chart here. GS, of course, and you guys can see it's making its move back towards 315. But will this get a takedown? This is the hardest part of the chart to call right now, because overall, I'm going to erase everything on here. All right, so we're erasing everything. We're starting over. Take a look at the weekly. The weekly looks like it's kind of build back to these levels. And of course, I can just draw a trend line here and then just draw a trend line on the bottom end, right? Bottoming action here. Go ahead and draw it across towards these levels. And you guys can see right now, we're kind of on the bottom here, on the support. Will we break through and get to the next level? all things to definitely kind of take a look at. We'll see what happens if we can get back above the 315 with this earnings report. Does it start making its way back to 350? If we do that, the market looks like it wants to go higher, right? A move back up here in the 350s. But we wake up tomorrow and Goldman Sachs is down here through the 280s. Yeah, you got to watch out because this could be coming down and coming down pretty fast. We'll see what happens on Goldman Sachs, and I think that's going to determine a lot of what happens also on Morgan Stanley. Very similar chart, right? Just hanging off on the support, 200-day moving average right below it, the exponential moving average that is. And we'll see if this can start getting strong again, start getting back there towards the 90s. Definitely is on my radar to keep watch of what happens to these banks this week. And of course, let's go checking in at what happened in technology today. Of course, there were some bigger leaders than others. Semiconductors, especially kind of getting that up move. We talked about AMD early on live trading that was getting a nice little move. We'll see if this one can finally hold the move and make the move back up towards kind of 120. It gets up to the 120 area, and this is looking like breakout city. We'll see what happens here. I think this is definitely something to keep your eyes open as you see this trend line kind of lining up there for a move back above 110. A clear move is a close towards kind of like 112 and 113s. I'll look for that move to 115 this week, especially on AMD, if it really wants to get moving there. And a big outlook that I was calling was taking a look at ARM and seeing if that can end green. That's helped me a lot on catching the technology days. When ARM is green, a lot of the times we're holding green in the market. When we're not, it's usually what? ARM is red. At least that's what I've been looking at and kind of going with right now. It's been holding this 52. Looks like it bottomed around 50. But if we could see a quick sweep and this ARM goes lower towards 30s, 20s, well, be careful out there, team, because you could see tech do a wicked turnaround. Right now, I'm seeing tech lead, but really, why is it leading? Well, a lot of this is based off of a lot of the kind of bearish pressures that are in the market right now. But overall, we'll see what happens with these earnings. Of course, one of the major earnings report is going to be looking at NVIDIA because of one of the outlooks that they gave, right? The guidance that they gave. If for any reason NVIDIA does not meet guidance, get ready because it's going to be a takedown. We'll see what else happens out there. Definitely smash the like. It's always good to see you guys in the chat. Say hello in the chat if you're new to the show or maybe just tuning in for the first time. Say hello. What are you guys taking a look at in the markets? Let's keep going. All right, let's go towards some different areas. Of course, you guys see solar coming back there. Not really necessarily an area that I will be looking at. I don't trust this solar move one bit, but we'll see what happens. First solar, EMPH. Of course, when energy goes higher, sometimes solar goes higher. And I think that that's also what kind of helped it today. Energy didn't make a bad move. It's still hanging in here and looking like it wants to continue to climb here. I think, of course, what do we need to keep our eyes on? WTI to take a look at that. Let me go ahead and take a look at the daily's range today, 86.32 by 88.33. I talked about it. Would we get back to 90? We got to 88 this morning, and that was around 8 a.m. So now I'll be watching to see if WTI can get into the 90s. If WTI gets back into the 90, crude hitting towards the 90s, that's looking like to me that we could get that spike there towards higher 90s. Of course, 95 seems to be the turning point recently. Let's see if we can make our way back into that 90 and start to climb. And with that climb, I'll be looking to see if stocks start to make a nice little uplift. Of course, ExxonMobil recently had that deal, so be careful kind of trading that one. I'm actually looking to see if Chevron can really make a move here. It's setting up like it wants to break out. Now the only question is, can it get the move, right? If I draw this trend line and I pull it here towards this, if it makes a move back above 170s, and look at all this bunch up area, right? And so this is going to be a very important level to kind of close above. We see this big wick there above 168, going to 169, 170. If I see a close up there, oil back into the 90s, Chevron will be looking really good here. We'll see what happens. Definitely an interesting stock to keep my eye out. All right, let's go to the consumer cyclical area. And this was an area that I was calling this morning on live trading. Just didn't listen to myself. And sometimes that's how it can go in trading, right? Well, today I've been calling out on live trading that I expected to see a little bit of a turn, right? I've been calling the consumer slowing down here on Start Swing Trade, pre-market prep, and live trading. But one of the things that I recently just said is that as we get closer to the holiday period, and as you guys saw from the prime example from Amazon, I think that we're going to actually see a little bit of a lift in these retail names. Why? The consumer facing stocks have been hit hard recently. And with that being said, you are going into a period where you could just get some seasonal lift. And I think that that's exactly what we're going to see here. Some seasonality come into play and seeing these stocks go higher. How can I take a look at this? Of course, Money Mitch got you guys. I would say take a look at the XRT or the Spider Retail ETF, right? Take a look at this. What does this show us? Well, it shows us that it has been on a decline here since August, essentially since the beginning of August, going down into October. So a nice 2 months of pullback. Now this is actually leading into a nice little rally that we're seeing today. So you guys can see how this kind of did an undercut and rally. And look at the volume that has been coming in the last couple of days. So this tells me enough that I might not be the only one that's starting to look green in this sector. And I think that that's an important outlook to see as you're seeing the volumes come back. We need to keep our eyes on it, but that could really get these stocks starting to move. So with that being said, what are some stocks you guys can be looking at? Well, you guys can be looking at Amazon, mentioned in the chat right now. Bigger boy, right? Retailer, but it's in specialty retail. Of course, leads the game and could go higher. Look at Home Depot bouncing back today, right? Look at McDonald's starting to bounce back, right? Netflix, consumer facing, right? Starting to get the bounce back and has earnings coming up. Even Disney starting to get the bounce and hold. This just goes to show me. Take a look here at Best Buy. Best Buy was one of the stocks that I was recently just shorting. And now I'm calling a little bit of a flip. It's interesting to take a look at the stocks like this, right? When you're starting to see the retail bounce, you got to be careful. Look at Lulu. For those people that thought Lulu was going to get turned around today, and I was even one of the ones that was calling for the breakdown over here in the 385s, you could see how quickly this has flipped. Now it's up there to 420s. It could make a new all-time high. It could start making its way up there to 480s. Who knows? One thing that I'm also looking at is like a stock like Ulta. Look at Ulta Beauty's turned around today. And look at what you see here. Big volume, big bar, turnaround. Seems to me like we could actually see this start to get a little bit of a lift. So this could actually be a target for weekly pullback to the 200. Now starting to make its way back. Maybe it gets back to 400, maybe 420. Something that I could keep my eye out for. Eli Lilly, right? We can keep our eyes on these stocks, right? We'll see what happens to these names. It's definitely something that I want to keep an eye out for. But Ulta Beauties could definitely kind of get that lift. We'll see what happens. Take a look here. Apparel stores going higher. TJX, Lulu, Ross, Burlington, GPS, American Eagle. You're seeing a trend here, right? A&F, Urban getting a little bit of a lift. Boots, even Foot Locker having a decent day coming back today. And one of the ones that I've been looking at, Nike. Nike's been one I talked about since last week. And look how it held the 100 look today. Definitely pulled back below it and then cleared it now towards 102. Doesn't look too bad there. And now you're seeing here Starbucks starting to come back. That just goes to show me when Starbucks comes back, yeah, the consumer's coming back, guys. Maybe it's a little bit of a pumpkin spice, but you guys see it. And I can think that this is going to continue to play out. So I'd be watching for retailers to maybe continue seeing a lift. With that being said, Shopify turned around today. Maybe we see Shopify finally have enough buyers down here. And I mean, this level just looks like there's buyers showing up around the 51, 52 level. It definitely seems like somebody doesn't want to let this go. I'll be watching to see if this can finally make a move back above 55.62. If that happens, I don't mind getting long on some shop towards the end of the year. We'll see what happens in this case. And definitely keep your eyes on retail stocks, stocks like Macy's, stocks like KSS, starting to get a little bit of a bounce back. And keep your eyes on a lot of the consumer cyclical area because we could see these stocks start to make a lift. And there's a lot of area in here to kind of keep an eye out for. Even auto truck dealerships getting a little bit of a bounce. Uh, Levi Strauss getting a little bit of a bounce back to 14. There's so many stocks here you guys can keep your eyes on, but definitely I'd watch the consumer cyclical and that retail area start to show strength. All right, let's keep going. And Coyote's talking about the research that I've been working on. Yes, trust me, this is going to be awesome, guys. What I'm working on specifically has to do with regional banks. It goes into real estate, it goes into commercial. A lot that I kind of looked up on the weekend. I'm working to get that video out. We should be seeing that video towards the end of the week. So smash the like for that. I think it's going to be something definitely to keep your eyes out for. I'll let you guys know a little bit more as that comes to get to it. Meta lift to the limits. Yeah, I mean, Meta hasn't been doing too bad, especially since mentioning, of course, the Quest 3. And you guys seen Meta. It's up there towards 321, 330s. Will it take the new high? Will it come right back to the 380s? I remember when this stock went back down to 100. Did anyone think that it would take just only about, let's say, a year to get back to the top? I can tell you right now, if anyone told you that, you might as well just whack, 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 because they were lying to you. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think anyone thought this was coming back to 380s that fast. But hey, that's how the market goes sometimes. And for those people that say that there's no such thing as V bottoms, they're lying to you, my friends, because look at this. This is as V bottom as it gets on Meta. And this thing hasn't ever come back to the 200-day. And what did it do? It gapped above it. It never even went back to it. It just gapped here at 155 and never even coming back. It took forever just to get back to the 50 exponential moving average. That's just goes to show you the strength and the trend that Meta had. All right, let's keep going. Getting a question in the chat. Any word on Target? I'll tell you what. I was just at Target just this weekend, and Target didn't seem that bad, guys. It didn't seem like there was no one going to Target. I know that there's the big woke crowd and things like that, but will Target turn around this ship at some point? I think at some point we need to kind of expect Target to turn around. I don't think Target's going to zero, right? And I think that that's something definitely to keep your eyes out for, but it's something that we'll keep watch, right? We'll see what happens with Target. Where could there be levels to kind of look at? I'm seeing 100 as potentially kind of that bottoming, and that's just because, you know, I can see the kind of 200 moving a monthly average here coming into play. And I really need to see this start to turn around, right? I'm not going to jump on it early. I'm just going to continue to watch it. But if this could really start showing some strength, getting back up there to 120s, I mean, it's not a bad stock to maybe invest in. I'll tell you one thing, you're definitely getting it cheaper than majority of the people thought. I mean, you're back in Target towards before the pandemic, right? Really close to right before the pandemic. So I think this is an opportunity to go ahead and get Target at these levels. Now, the only question is, where do we come after it? What price level? I don't want to see some strength on the monthly. I need to see this start going back to 120s, 125s, and then I can get interested in going after it. Meta was broken. Now V, yeah. You know how it is, man. Sometimes they say the V bottoms don't exist, but something definitely existed there on that V bottom because Meta was a wicked one. All right, let's get back to the stocks out there. Basic materials continuing. Let's go to the daily chart. You guys can see how they just bounced a little bit. What was strong here? Finally getting a little bit of a lift there in wood production. Building materials, of course, an area that I haven't given up on. And I think that you'll continue to see some strength come out of this space. Just continue to watch it, right? BLTR has recently pulled back. That gives an opportunity here. Building materials stock, I think that we're going to see a lot of building actually happen, even though it's a high interest rate environment. I'm actually looking for the home builders to go heavy. DHI was one that I was keeping an eye out for, and it's looking like it's building up some volume. I actually have this one on my radar. I would really like for it to make its way to 100 first, but if it starts to work its way back above the 200-day moving average, I'll definitely keep my eye on this. Definitely DHI, residential construction. It's going to come into play with a lot of the building materials. And I think that that's one thing you keep your eyes on. If the home builders start to make it lift, keep your eyes on some of these other stocks, right? To see if they start pushing. BLTR, CARR, definitely on my radar. Copper having a decent day. Industrial metals, gold continuing. As of late, gold hasn't been a bad play. AU taking a little bit of a pullback here. We'll look to see if it makes the next step up here. Gold overall, not a bad move there. Vale starting to get going again. Industrial metals and minerals. We'll look to see if this can start making a move. CCJ was recently hot, pulled back a significant amount. We'll see if it starts to trend back to the upside. Of course, those are kind of the uranium, metals types of plays. Keep your eyes on those. We'll see what happens there. If you look, specialty chemicals having a decent day. Even coal wasn't doing too bad today. Keep an eye on like BTU to see when is the next step up here. AMR not doing too bad, bouncing a little bit. We'll see what happens, because if oil falls off, I think coal falls off. So that's one thing just to keep your eyes open for. As you guys can see, there was no sector in the red from the open, and that tells us a lot. That's when you're seeing a lot of strength in the market. Even defensive names were getting a little bit of a bounce back today, and that's something definitely to catch. When you're seeing just an all-out kind of push to the upside, that's nothing you want to miss out on. Even healthcare plans, UNH going in red, but ELV still making a decent move higher. This was a pretty good move up, not a bad move at all. CVS came back down. I think that UNH is definitely starting to play an effect. We'll see what happens with healthcare plans later. Of course, we have some more earnings coming in, and keep your eyes tomorrow to see what happens in the bank. Sell off a little bit here on the SPY towards the end. We'll see if we start to see some red leaking out the open here. One thing that's for certain, the SPY has big resistance right above it, 437. Can we get through that tomorrow? We'll definitely keep our eyes open. And of course, you guys can keep up with everything I do at Money Mitch BZ. Of course, there's a lot more for you guys right here on Benzinga. We got our flagship show every single morning, 8 a.m. to 9 a.m. That's pre-market prep. And then, of course, live trading. If you guys haven't caught live trading before, definitely check it out, 9 a.m. Eastern to 11 a.m. Eastern, where we talk all about these trades, and then eventually come here to start swing trade and catch up with the market. Like always, I'll be here with you guys battling in the markets. You guys out there, smash the like. I'll see you next time, team. Keep battling and stay safe out there.